I'm having to make up a lot of the flowers that would have been here in the 20s. There would have been an absolute mass of poppies, I imagine, in the corn. People didn't really seem to fuss too much about that. I'm having to get thistles, and corn cockles are very rare, of course. I shall have to get that out of a book, a corn cockle. But it's such a shame. Around the edge of this field there are quite a few wildflowers because I don't think the verge has been sprayed. But in the corn it's absolutely pure corn, I think. Very few weeds here, which from my point of view is an awful shame, and I think from a lot of people's point of view really, because I don't think a few weeds really hurt much and really enhance the scene, you know. This is a painting for the National Trust, a commission by the National Trust to hang in their restaurant at Cotehill, and it's to depict harvest field in the 20s in England. And I'm left very free to do more or less what I like, so it's a real super commission. And I'm going to do a lot of wildflowers and harvest field plants and stooks in the background and Calstock Bridge in the background, all in a sort of summer haze. But I think it's very important that I paint out of doors all the time as much as I can so that I get that real authenticity about it, the sunlight shining through the hairs on the barley and the evening sun very low, I hope, and a harvest supper awaiting the thirsty travellers or the thirsty workers out in the fields, and a woman's brought all the usual stuff, the pasties and the cream and the saffron cake in the front, and it's a real excuse to have a sort of real Cornish delight in the front with the harvest field in the back and a real harvest commission. There's one thing that gets me really angry, and that's when somebody says, of course, painting in a field of poppies or in a field of corn, just like Cadbury's Flake advert, drifting through in a flimsy dress, beautiful, lovely weather, bees buzzing. And I think, well, they really don't know what painting is about. For a start, you haven't got time to think about what you wear, and you just put on what's coolest and most filthy, really, so you don't get paint all over. You get bitten to death by midges. When you're drifting through the field, your legs get all scratched. You just don't have time to look like that. Cadbury's Flake. I think most local people respond to me painting them with a sort of amused tolerance, really. I think they're quite fond of having me around. They seem to appreciate they have a view when they see an artist painting it. And I think they really like me to sort of celebrate their particular way of life and their crops, their view. You know, I think it's a good thing. They seem to enjoy having me around.
Yeah.
Generally, I think they think really it's not a proper job, really, on the whole. It's not a proper job like theirs is, which is getting food and that. But there again, I think I'm fulfilling a spiritual need and providing spiritual food. Don't think you can live by cabbages and turnips and corn and grass, really.
Oh, let me answer it again.
Yeah, okay, so there's not very many there to get off.
And I think the packing shed interior is so sort of old and everything's based on the traditional way of picking flowers, and it's quite a communal thing, you know, though people don't necessarily talk a lot. You know, it's all those flowers being brought in, the sounds of the rubber bands and the snapping of the stems, and it's just all the sort of outside coming inside, and it's always a wonderful light in there, and people are relaxed, and it's just very inspiring, that place. They don't just see it as bread and butter, they appreciate their anemones and their posies, and they bring them in the great big bunches of parsley, and everything is, you know, sort of harmonious. The patronal festival at St Dominick is to commemorate the founding of the church in St Dominick as a village, and this festival is for raising money for the village and the parish church. And we're having this little exhibition in the Lady Chapel to help raise funds. We'll sell some paintings and try and create some interest, get people to come and see the flowers that are also here. I get a lot of moral support from my family. They've always encouraged me in painting, even when times are really hard and when I was a student and thought of giving it all up. And they've always been very good and supported me in every way. My sister Virginia is great help to me. She acts as my agent and as my business organiser and takes all those worries and financial hassles off my shoulders so that I can get on with the painting, which is, I suppose, what it's all about. I feel that I don't really need religion in the conventional sense because I have my painting, which gives me this meditative feeling every day. It's not obsession or necessity to go to church like maybe when I was a child. I felt I ought to, and I used to sort of work myself into thinking perhaps there was something spiritual need of going to church. I don't feel that I need that now with my painting. If people could only realise that the solace that they got from the church or fulfilment they got from an outside service could be got from inside themselves, I think more people would turn to meditation and to other religions which get all their inspiration from within themselves. My family have lived in the parish of St Dominick for at least 6 generations and probably more. They've been brewers and millers, farmers and market gardeners, and had played a large role in the village life. I'm really delighted when local people pass comments, favourable comments on my paintings. It means that they open their eyes and see what's around them, which is, after all, the most important things. It means they will preserve what I'm trying to paint, perhaps. At least they appreciate what I'm trying to paint.
If you sell it to me at the right price, I will buy it.
You mean
for my son?
Knock off a naught, you mean?
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah. What? So it's 9 instead of 9-0?
Oh yes, yes. I couldn't afford that.
You realise it's a week out of my life painting.
Really?
Of course, it'd be more money for the church, you know.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but there again, it would have gone to good home, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
You see, he is the organist.
Yeah.
He'd have it for life, you see.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll think about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
Thank you.
You've got crows in there as well, you know.
The crows as well?
Yeah.
Oh.
And clouds.
Perhaps we could pay a little more for their...
What, 50p? Paintings aren't worth money, are they, really? It's in the money, is it, really? It'd be nice if we would give them to the right people.
I don't know if they would increase in value.
I shouldn't worry about that. If you like it, then buy it. People who ought to have paintings ought to have them free, I think, don't you?
Aren't they beautiful?
I believe that the painting does help to bring people's attention to what they're going to lose if they don't do something. It is, in that sense, a political statement. I feel that instead of preaching at people about, look what you're doing to the environment, look what's going to happen if you don't change your ways, and look at the long-term things, don't preach, but just show them how beautiful the world is around you and let them reach their own conclusions.
I'm not doing the rhubarb as well, am I?
Angry paintings don't convert people, I'm sure of it. Maybe they make people recoil in horror, but in the end they recoil, and the whole thing is trying to make people come out of themselves and talk to you. Very often then people do say, oh, I saw Mary Martin painted today, I was going down the hill and I saw, wasn't it beautiful? And really, I'm not changed, and just a little thing like that may spark off something in somebody, and that's then worthwhile. Don't you? You've made it.
Yes, it's beautiful.
It's a lovely loop.
It's done a path.
You've really got to stand to appreciate them.
cat on the corner.
Oh, yes,
And on the
yeah,
Daffodils.
I often do this, leave my paintings in a corn bin. What? Or under a hedge or something. It's too darn heavy to take anywhere else. So. There were at least 8 varieties of Tamar Valley cherries, and in their heyday they were very famous all over the country. There were Burkhams and Fices, Birchenhays, Bullions for bottling, Smuts, which nobody seems to know what they were for, because they're very small, and many other varieties. And the Tamar Valley cherries were well suited to the climate down in the Tamar Valley. They stuck the wet and warm weather and didn't split over much unless the rain was very persistent or had a quick storm. And the Tamar Valley cherries were black mainly, and they were very sweet and had a lovely taste. And they were sold locally. They've all died out, practically all died out now. A few orchards still remain, and the old people who could tell us what they were are also going. Now look at this tree here. That's been cut down well before its time is due. And now it's just going to be used for firewood. You can see by the grain over here that it's perfect turning material. Wouldn't make furniture now because it's been cut in too short a length, but that's what makes me really mad, is why people don't graft new trees instead of cutting down all the old ones. This one, I reckon, must be about 80 years old by the lines here. And I don't know, it just saddens me to see an orchard like this that's a complete ruin of its former days. Before there were about 60 trees here. This was only about 10 years ago, and every year I see about 6 that have been cut down before their time. And if only people were grafting and replacing them, then we'd still have fine orchards like the Tamar Valley was famous for before. The skill of grafting is becoming extremely rare in this area anyway. At one time, most market gardeners could graft and did so. They grafted all round their gardens. They grafted roses just for fun. They kept the art going and taught it to their children, I suppose, and to people who wanted to learn. And we found a really interesting pear. It was red and supposed to grow up to 8 inches long. It was at least 300 years old, we thought, because it stood in a courtyard of a very ancient house. And we thought we'll come back next year and graft it at the right time of year, because it wasn't the right time for grafting. We went back at the proper time, and we found that it was lying in the courtyard. It had been cut down because the owners changed hands, and that pear has been lost now forever. Progress is not progress in my eyes. The way it's going is going too fast. Everything is catching up with itself. Eradicating species isn't a very good thing to do, and I don't think we should be remembered for it. I never thought I'd ever have anything to do with steam. It's the last thing I thought I'd ever be engaged in, steering a steamroller. But of course, when I met James and realised that steam was part of his life, then it was either steam or not much to do with James. Things like steam engines have a sort of beauty of action and movement, and a dependence on natural reserves like coal, and the smell and the sight of them is a very rewarding thing. solitude is really, for me, absolute necessity, but it is a sort of painful thing sometimes because I like communicating on a day-to-day basis with people. And sometimes I'm days on end without talking to anybody, and that's why I find it quite difficult to articulate in words after a period like that. I don't really want to. I want to get on, reach the culmination of a painting which is gradually getting more and more good. But it is that sort of frame of mind, that state of flux, which mustn't be interrupted if the painting's going to go well. When you're really painting well, you've got 3 hours, you don't know where the 3 hours have gone, and that to me is the meditative thing, you know, and all that time you've been taking in nature, and nature's been taking you, and you've been absolutely absorbed in nature, and that's that 3 hours, and you suddenly look at your watch and my God, where's it gone? I'm painting these bee balls because they're practically derelict now. The roof has gone from the end wall in which they were built, and the rain is getting in now. And the bee balls, there were a lot of these back in the time when fruit growing was really important in the Tamar Valley, and they were used to keep bees in. The straw skips were put in these holes in the wall, and the bees were protected from the wind and the rain because there was a roof on. It's the inside of the building, and there were little holes in the back to let them in and out of the skips, and they were very common in the old days. They're probably 300 years old. They're really unique now, and they say that they're the only ones left in the whole country, not just in Cornwall, but in the whole country of this type. When I start a new picture, I usually have a vague idea of the end result, but it requires a lot of what I call mooching around to get into the mood for the painting. It's a lot of observing and summing up details and looking at a place for the right time of day, the right light, the right season, of course, but everything revolves around a minute sort of observation. I think when painting goes really well, then that very often means that I've become one with nature and felt no self-consciousness, that I've become part of the scene around, and I then lose all track of time, and that's when the painting seems to come really well. This kind of water meadow with permanent pasture is extremely rare. More and more farmers are getting rid of their little pieces of badly drained land, which seems to have no value in cash terms, and draining them. And here we have about probably 70 species, and it's taken hundreds of years to develop an area like this with all its interdependent plants and animals. And it's becoming increasingly the story that all over the country, areas like this are becoming eradicated by chemical sprays, intensive drainage, and just trying to make a little bit more pasture into a farm. When I sit here and paint all these ragged robin and monkey musk and flag iris and all these beautiful wild flowers, I feel an absolute desperation that it's disappearing so fast that I might not even have time to finish this picture. in one day this whole area, which has taken so many years to develop, can be completely destroyed for all posterity, and it'll never come again, because once the pasture has been maintained, then it'll be sprayed regularly or cropped regularly and drained so that no such variety will ever come again. I was pretty nervous at the London preview. I always expect to feel patronised when I have a show away from home. You know, this is the Cornish girl, the bumpkin perhaps. There's still a sort of, not a class thing, but a dialect thing, which I was made aware of at college, you know, that I spoke broad, and I made a jolly concerted effort to sort of keep my accent because I felt it's my identity. But art really sort of irons out all these differences, and people do respond to paintings and forget that, you know, you're a bit different and come from the country. You know?
You kept the freshness of it so nicely, I think, really. There's a sort of blaze of sunlight there.
I like to think so, yeah. It's a blaze of something. I felt it was, I wouldn't repeat it really, and it's sort of a quite a tumultuous sort of thing.
Yes. You ought to do some sort of illustrations of flowers, I should think.
Yes.
You do that perfectly.
What I like is the flowers with their background, in their environment,
that
not
would
just
be
set out
marvellous,
against
yes.
a white or a dark
that which is horrid.
That would suit you down to the ground.
Yes, you know, sort of in their setting, really, not taking... It's awfully contrived, a painting like that, isn't it, really?
I love it. When you get far enough away.
I was a bit worried in that I might get some rather catty reviews. That's why I did it, really. I wanted to see what people would say to a relative unknown. It would be just the work which would stand to be criticised or otherwise. I'm probably all for forging, really, because I think it shows people up who are into art for an investment. I think, you know, a painting should stand for itself, and you should buy a painting because you really like it and you want to live with it, not because you want to put it in a vault and think it's a good investment. I'd like to say, you can have that one, you can have that one, but you're not fit to have that one because you don't appreciate it for the right reasons, and which is very bad of me, because once I've done them, they should be out of my mind, out of my sight, and it's a commodity like everything else, but I can't help that. I'd like to give my paintings away to people who deserve them.
Can I say again? Since you have been in abstract, you have been coming back to this.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I suppose it's usually the other way around, isn't it, I suppose, but I felt, I don't know, I just didn't have enough information. I don't think you should paint abstract unless you absolutely know everything there is to know about the real world.
Think you'll get through the door?
Thank you.
Making cider in the way we've done, I think, is a bit of heritage preserving, which I think is important. And it was just a very clean way of making a nice drink. It was just no pollution, nothing sordid, nothing of machine age really, except for a granite crusher and an 18th century press. It's so basic and yet so effective, and it was so aesthetically pleasing to do, apart from the plastic bags of apples and the metal buckets and the scraping shovels. You know, it was really worthwhile doing. The long straw is very important, we find, in making cider in the old way. Those short straw can be used, and hessian bags are used in making the cheese. The cheese is made with this long straw that we got from a farm in North Cornwall, and this straw was grown for thatching and combined. It's very rare now because, of course, short straw is the order of the day everywhere. Patchy a little bit.
Turn of the screw. We've got the long one. We've got the long one there.
We're not going to need that for a bit.
That'd be good.
The cider really was sort of incidental to the actual joy of getting the machinery working again. The brew was very alcoholic, and everything that cider's meant to do, it did. Oh, the cider gets you in the knees, I should say, but the apple juice is pretty good, and the cider vinegar, which was incidental, was even better.
It's not good, isn't it?
In about the year 679, the daughter and son of an Irish prince sailed up the Tamar and landed at Halton Quay. And they were called Indracht, and his sister was called Dominica. And Dominica founded St Dominick as we know it. She was an Irish nun, and she founded the chapel at Chapel near Halton Quay, and from that started out the parish St Dominick. And I believe that the changes that I will see in my short lifetime will be far more than the changes from St Dominica's lifetime until mine. I really believe that.